Hello, I'm Elijah Henderson from Cryptid Studies Institute, here off of Highway 30 in Ray County, Tennessee. For most men in the South, coon hunting is just a way of life. From the time that they can hold a rifle, they're generally traveling this rugged landscape with their favorite hunting dog, trying to bag some elusive coon or some other critter. However, the hunt doesn't always go as planned, and such was the case of one unfortunate soul who said he saw a devil on top of a rocky outcropping somewhere above this majestic tree line here at Lone Mountain. Lone Mountain in Ray County, Tennessee is situated in the near vicinity of both Walden's Ridge and Laurel Snow State Park, both of which have been featured in one of our previous Nightmare Nugget videos. Walden's Ridge was featured due to an encounter that a young woman had one cold winter's evening with what was described as a man-wolf or wolf-man. Laurel Snow State Park, or Pocket Wilderness, was featured as a result of multiple reports claiming that not one, but 3 Sasquatch call the place home, and one of them is reportedly very aggressive. Lone Mountain makes up a portion of the Appalachian Mountain Range that stretches all the way from Maine to Georgia. The Appalachian Mountains have a very fertile history of creature sightings, alleged haunts, witches, and other horrors. These mountains, with their hills and hollers, are full of mysterious goings-on, and no matter how dark or sinister the reports from this mountain are, we here at Cryptid Studies Institute, we will always call them home. In our minds, there's nowhere more beautiful than these Appalachian mountains and foothills, especially during the fall. Fall is probably when the encounters in question took place. The timing is just a bit in question because the gentleman who had the experience has sadly passed on. However, his daughter remembers the account well, and how terrified her daddy was in the aftermath of his interaction with the unknown. He claimed that he had encountered the devil in the forest. I'm not going to give the family's last name because many people living in the mountains tend to be private people and don't want people knowing their business. Not to mention that there is a strong belief in certain circles that giving someone your name gives them power over you. Watch any movie about an exorcism, and the first thing the priest will ask of the person possessed is, "What is your name?" Because if he can ascertain the demonic entity's name, it gives him power over it. Even Jesus in Scripture, while facing off against the possessed man among the tombs, he asked the man, "What is your name?" Hence the belief that names do have power. So I'll refer to those involved as Columbus and Maxine. Columbus was the very image of a simple countryman. He lived a simple country existence, and he had few pleasures in life, but one thing that he loved was hunting, coon hunting in particular. Columbus had little or no fear of the forest. In face, he just about knew the whole area like the back of his hand, and he certainly had no fear of the dark. He was well acquainted with being in the woods at night. He had been doing it since he was a child. But let me tell you something. If you had never been in the mountains and the woods at night, you have no clue what darkness is. Coon hunting alone in the mountains at night is not for the faint-hearted. On the night in question, Columbus, who lived up on Highway 30, determined that he was going to have himself a little outing and to try to bag himself a coon or two. Columbus grabbed his gun and his hunting dog Nick and took off up the old trail behind his house that led up Lone Mountain to a predetermined destination. Arriving at the desired location, Columbus released his stalwart hound, who took off like a rocket, and the game was afoot. However, fortune must not have been with the coon hunting duo, because after some portion of the night had passed, Columbus had to take a few moments to rest and catch his breath, and the spot that he chose as his temporary refuge was beneath a rocky overhang that formed an oversized ledge. He began to hear movement and shuffling on the ledge above him, and he saw Nick running for all he was worth toward him, and he was barking and whining and howling, and seemed to be seized by a fit of terror unlike anything Columbus had ever seen with this dog before. The dog literally ran under his feet, trying to hide. With great concern over the unnerving situation, Columbus slowly stood and stepped out from beneath the ledge, and looked on top of the giant boulder that had formed his resting shelter. Columbus, who had roamed these hills since childhood, felt his perception of reality fall away as his eyes fell upon the hulking monstrosity that stood atop the stony outcropping. Like a megalithic king of the mountain, an almost obscene parody of Simba from the Lion King fame, standing atop of Pride Rock, Nick was now almost frothing with terror, and Columbus's heart beat like a jackhammer as the nightmare beast spread wide its massive arm and threw his mighty head back as if about to roar his fearsome anger to the heavens. The abominable behemoth, according to Columbus, stood somewhere between 8 to 10 feet tall, and was black as soot. But the most terrifying aspect of the mountain monster was that its eyes radiated a fiery red, not reflected red, but radiated like some sort of bioluminescence. Columbus, now fearful for their lives, grabbed Nick and fled as the creature prepared to roar and scream on into the night. And all the time that followed, Columbus would never go back to that area, and it was a goodly amount of time before he would even set foot in the forest to hunt a coon, or anything else for that matter. When Columbus finally did return to the woods, he gave the accursed site of his encounter a wide berth. Some time later, a friend of ours was riding a four-wheeler a few miles away from Lone Mountain when he began to hear screams, roaring, tree knocks, and lastly, large rocks came flying down into the creek where he was at, just before he saw a large, dark shape dart away into the forest. Was it the same thing? Who can say? And as for Columbus, what was the soot-black devil with flaming red eyes that terrified him and old Nick so badly that they walked, or should I say ran away from their coon-hunting hobby that gave them such joy? What was the fearsome beast that he encountered there in those hills on that fateful night? Was it a Bigfoot? Was it a dog-man? Was it the devil himself? We may never know. Columbus, however, didn't care what it was. He just didn't want to see it again. Whenever someone wanted him to revisit that cursed location, he would say, "I ain't never going back. That thing was showing me who was boss." Maybe we should follow Columbus's example and stay out of the woods before we run up on a red-eyed devil in the woods and anger the big boss man. Maybe we should leave well enough alone. Nah. Until next time, I'm Elijah Henderson.